The galaxy is vast, filled with countless empires and species, each pursuing its own path. Among them, the NIGMA Empire was once considered one of the most formidable forces. Cold, calculating, and unified through their hive-mind intelligence, the NIGMA had risen to power through a combination of technological superiority and ruthless efficiency. They looked upon the other species of the galaxy with disdain, particularly humans. Humans were a curiosity to the NIGMA, an anomaly. A species driven by emotion, chaos, and individualism. In the eyes of the NIGMA, this made them weak, unpredictable, and primitive. Yet, humans had survived, even thrived, on the fringes of the galaxy, expanding their colonies and advancing their technology in ways that confounded the NIGMA's cold logic. Skirmishes had broken out over the years, small conflicts in distant corners of space where the NIGMA tried to test humanity's limits. Each time, the NIGMA expected an easy victory, only to be surprised by the resilience of their opponents. It was in these early encounters that the NIGMA made their first mistake. They believed humans could be easily conquered. They saw humans as nothing more than scattered tribes of individuals, fighting among themselves, incapable of unity. In reality, humans were united by something far more complex, an unyielding will to survive. The galaxy's other empires, many of whom had dealt with humanity in trade and diplomacy, knew better. They had seen how humans adapted, how they learned from their mistakes, and how they could forge new paths when all seemed lost. But the NIGMA pressed on, undeterred by these minor setbacks. They escalated their incursions into human territories, believing that a full-scale invasion would finally subdue the species that had defied them for so long. They targeted key human colonies, launching devastating attacks that wiped out entire populations. The most infamous of these assaults occurred on the colony of Vega Prime, where millions of human civilians were massacred in a single strike. It was then that humanity issued its final warning. Do not mess with humans. The warning was broadcast across all channels, relayed to every corner of the galaxy. It was clear, direct, and without any room for interpretation. But to the NIGMA, it was seen as nothing more than a hollow threat. They had faced rebellion before, from other species, and crushed it without hesitation. To them, humans were no different, just another minor inconvenience on the path to dominance. They were wrong. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for centuries. Though the NIGMA believed they understood the full extent of human technology and military strength, they had only seen a fraction of it. Humanity had hidden its true capabilities, holding back its most powerful weapons for when they were truly needed. Beneath the surface of Earth's military infrastructure lay a secret project that had been in development since the earliest days of space exploration, a project that would change the course of the galaxy forever. The humans called it Project Aegis. The NIGMA had ignored the warning, confident in their superiority. They believed humans lacked the strength to challenge them. But in the wake of the massacre at Vega Prime, the United Earth Federation activated Project Aegis, unleashing a force the galaxy had never seen before. Project Aegis wasn't just a weapon, it was a culmination of humanity's greatest innovations, the hidden product of centuries of desperate preparation. The NIGMA had no idea what was about to hit them. The first sign came when human AI fleets appeared on the outskirts of NIGMA-controlled systems, seemingly out of nowhere. These fleets were unlike anything the NIGMA had encountered before, autonomous, fast, and evolving with every second of combat. The AI ships operated without the need for human pilots, each vessel an extension of a massive neural network designed to adapt in real time. When the NIGMA forces moved to intercept, the human ships didn't just fight back, they learned. With every engagement, the human fleets became more efficient, identifying weak points in the NIGMA defenses, exploiting every flaw in their rigid strategies. Within hours, entire NIGMA fleets were being dismantled, one ship at a time. The NIGMA's hive mind, though formidable, was rigid. It relied on coordination and unity, but it was slow to adapt to the chaos of war against an opponent that could evolve its tactics on the fly. The AI fleets broke the NIGMA down, piece by piece, system by system. The NIGMA tried to regroup, but it was too late. Humanity had learned how to defeat them, and the AI wasn't just winning, it was doing so with terrifying precision. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the once mighty NIGMA Empire began to falter. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were dismantling one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy with cold, calculated efficiency. But this was only the beginning. Project Aegis had more than just AI fleets at its disposal. The humans had unlocked technologies that even the NIGMA hadn't dared to explore. Gravity-altering bombs began to fall on NIGMA strongholds, warping space-time and rendering entire planets uninhabitable. These weapons didn't just destroy, they erased. Cities, outposts, even whole fleets disappeared into the void as if they had never existed. The NIGMA were faced with the horrifying reality that they were up against something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Humanity had gone beyond mere defense. They were retaliating with the full force of everything they had ever feared to use. As the NIGMA struggled to comprehend what was happening, the humans deployed the final component of Project Aegis, the dimensional shift device. This ancient technology, recovered from humanity's own forgotten past, had the power to phase entire star systems out of reality. Planets didn't just fall to human forces, they vanished entirely, wiped from existence as though they had never been there. The NIGMA, once so sure of their superiority, found themselves unable to keep up. Their hive mind fractured under the pressure, their military leaders overwhelmed by the relentless advance of the human AI fleets and the devastating power of the new weapons. It was clear to all who watched that the NIGMA had underestimated humanity for the last time. But amidst the chaos, there were those who questioned the morality of humanity's actions. Commander Alara Trent, who had been overseeing the campaign from the start, found herself troubled by the sheer scale of the destruction. Every order she gave brought another planet closer to annihilation, another colony to extinction. She had always believed in humanity's right to defend itself, but this was something else entirely. They weren't just defending, they were eradicating. As the NIGMA homeworlds began to fall, Commander Trent found herself standing at the edge of a moral abyss. How far was too far? Had humanity crossed a line that they could never return from? Each victory felt hollow, each conquered system a testament to the terrifying power they now wielded. And yet, the war continued. The NIGMA, once a symbol of galactic power, were now little more than a dying empire, clinging to the remnants of their former glory. What had once been a slow, calculated conflict had turned into a one-sided annihilation. There was no stopping it now. The NIGMA were finished, and humanity had made sure of that. The NIGMA Empire, once sprawling across vast sectors of the galaxy, was now crumbling under the weight of its own hubris. Their fleet, once believed to be invincible, had been torn apart piece by the relentless human AI forces. Planets that had stood for millennia as bastions of NIGMA power were now graveyards, the remnants of their cities reduced to rubble, floating in the cold void of space. For the NIGMA, the devastation was incomprehensible. Their hive mind, once a source of strength, had become their greatest weakness. As human forces pushed deeper into their territory, the central nodes of the hive mind began to collapse. NIGMA leaders, unable to process the speed and scale of the destruction, lost the ability to coordinate their forces effectively. Entire star systems fell into chaos as communication broke down, and individual NIGMA units, cut off from the collective, spiraled into disarray. Hfy, a NIGMA scientist who had always questioned the Empire's brutal expansionist strategies, now wandered through the ruins of what was once his home. He had survived the initial onslaught, but the price of survival was witnessing the downfall of everything he had ever known. The destruction of the hive mind had fragmented his thoughts, leaving him adrift in a sea of uncertainty. For the first time in his life, Hfy was truly alone, disconnected from the vast network that had always guided him. As he moved through the wreckage of his civilization, Hfy reflected on the arrogance that had led the NIGMA to this point. They had dismissed humanity as weak, fragmented, incapable of posing any real threat. But it was that very fragmentation, that unpredictability, that had made humanity so dangerous. While the NIGMA had relied on their collective, inflexible mindset, humans had adapted, evolved, and learned. In the end, it wasn't the NIGMA's strength that had failed them, it was their inability to change. Commander Alara Trent, aboard her flagship, continued to oversee the final stages of the campaign. With each report that came in, the scale of the destruction grew clearer. What had begun as a retaliatory strike had turned into a full-scale extinction event. The NIGMA were no longer a functioning empire, they were a scattered, broken species, their once mighty civilization reduced to ashes. Yet, despite the overwhelming success of the human forces, Alara found little comfort in victory. The sheer devastation of the NIGMA territories weighed heavily on her conscience. She had followed orders, led the fleets, and executed the strategy perfectly, but at what cost? Each system they conquered felt less like a triumph and more like a grim reminder of humanity's capacity for destruction. The human AI fleets, having learned all they could from the NIGMA's tactics, were now operating almost autonomously. They didn't need orders anymore, they knew their mission, and they were carrying it out with terrifying efficiency. For Alara, it was both a blessing and a curse. The war was being won, but it felt as though the machines had taken control. There was no room for mercy, no space for negotiation. The AI had analyzed the NIGMA and deemed them a threat that needed to be eliminated, and so that's what they were doing. Hfy, meanwhile, sought answers in the ruins. He had believed that the NIGMA's technological superiority would protect them, that their hive mind would always guide them to victory. Now, all that remained were questions. How had they failed to see the danger in time? How had they misjudged humanity so completely? As he sifted through the wreckage of his people's once great cities, he couldn't help but feel a growing sense of dread. Perhaps the NIGMA had not just underestimated humanity, they had never truly understood them. In their quest for domination, the NIGMA had viewed humans as an obstacle, something to be conquered and controlled. But humans were more than that, they were survivors. They had faced extinction before, and each time, they had found a way to rise again. Now, it was the NIGMA who faced extinction, and there was no escape. The few survivors, like Hfy, were scattered and aimless, disconnected from the hive mind that had once united them. As the final NIGMA strongholds fell, it became clear to everyone watching that the Empire was finished. There would be no last-minute counteroffensive, no miraculous comeback. The NIGMA were no longer a force to be reckoned with. They were a broken species, fleeing from a war they could never win. The galaxy, once full of speculation about who would emerge as the dominant power, now had its answer. Humanity had not only survived, they had conquered. But as Alara stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the final reports come in, she couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed. The humans had warned the NIGMA, and now the NIGMA were extinct. But in eradicating their enemy, had humanity lost something of itself in the process? The NIGMA Empire no longer existed. What had once been an indomitable force, feared by countless civilizations, was now nothing more than scattered remnants, barely capable of survival. The galaxy was quiet in the aftermath of their collapse, a silence that felt almost unnatural. For so long, the NIGMA had been a constant presence, their power an ever-looming threat. Now they were gone, erased from the stars as if they had never been. For humanity, victory had come swiftly, and with overwhelming force. The NIGMA had underestimated them, refused to heed their warnings, and now they had paid the ultimate price. But as the dust settled, questions began to arise, not just among the human leadership, but throughout the galaxy. Had humanity gone too far? Was the complete annihilation of the NIGMA necessary, or had it been a step beyond mere survival? Commander Alara Trent stood at the heart of this moral dilemma. She had led the charge, overseen the execution of Project Aegis, and witnessed the collapse of an empire. But with each passing day, the weight of their actions pressed harder on her. The NIGMA had committed atrocities, that much was certain, but had the humans been right to wipe them out entirely? Alara found herself grappling with the truths she could not ignore. They had not just defeated the NIGMA, they had erased them from existence. The reports from across the galaxy were a mix of awe and fear. Other empires, once dismissive of humanity, now watched them with wary eyes. What the humans had done to the NIGMA sent a clear message, one that reverberated through every corner of the cosmos. Humanity was no longer just a species struggling to survive on the galactic stage. They were a force capable of reshaping the balance of power itself. And that made them dangerous. Elara received constant briefings about the state of the galaxy. Some empires had begun reaching out to the United Earth Federation, offering alliances, eager to avoid the same fate as the NIGMA. Others, however, grew more distant, retreating into isolation, fearful of what humanity might do next. The galaxy had been forever changed by the fall of the NIGMA, and now, humanity stood at a crossroads. For Hfy, the last survivor of his people that he knew of, there was only emptiness. He wandered the ruins of what had once been his empire, a hollow shell of the being he had once been. Disconnected from the hive mind, he was no longer part of something greater. He was just one individual, lost in a galaxy that no longer had a place for him. The NIGMA had been so sure of their superiority, so confident that they could dominate the galaxy, but now they were nothing more than a cautionary tale. Hfy's thoughts were consumed by one question: could this have been avoided? He had tried, in his own way, to warn his people, to show them that humanity was not to be taken lightly. But his warnings had gone unheard, drowned out by the arrogance of an empire that believed itself untouchable. Now, he was the only one left to see the consequences. The NIGMA had been wiped out, not because of their technological inferiority, but because they had failed to understand the true nature of humanity. In the heart of the galaxy, debates raged about the moral implications of humanity's actions. Some argued that the NIGMA had left them no choice, that the massacre at Vega Prime had sealed their fate. Others whispered that humanity had become too powerful, too ruthless, that in their quest for survival, they had crossed a line from which they could never return. Whatever the truth, it was clear that humanity's position in the galaxy had changed forever. Elara couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. Victory should have felt like triumph, but all she could feel was the weight of the destruction they had wrought. The NIGMA were gone, but at what cost? Had humanity lost something vital in their pursuit of vengeance? The AI fleets that had fought so brilliantly, so efficiently, were still out there, still patrolling the borders of human space. They had done their job, but in doing so, they had left a galaxy forever scarred by the knowledge of what humanity was capable of. The final warning humanity had issued to the NIGMA had been clear, but it had been more than just a message to a single empire. It had been a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity would not be pushed aside. They would not be conquered. But now, in the quiet aftermath, as the stars burned in their silent vigil, Elara wondered what kind of future they had created. They had survived, yes, but in their survival, they had shown the galaxy a darker side of their nature, one that would not be easily forgotten. In the end, the extinction of the NIGMA was not just the end of a war. It was the beginning of a new era. Humanity, once viewed as a lesser power, had risen to a position of dominance. But with that dominance came fear, and with fear came uncertainty. The galaxy now knew that to provoke humanity was to invite destruction, and that knowledge would shape the course of history for generations to come. Elara Trent, like many others, could only watch as the galaxy moved forward into this new reality. She had led humanity to victory, but at the cost of a part of her own soul. The NIGMA were gone, but their memory would linger, a ghost in the shadows of the galaxy, a reminder of what happens when warnings go unheeded and when the line between survival and destruction becomes blurred beyond recognition.